Now, depending on the subject matter of the video, I may or may not already have video recorded that I plan to use. If the video is about my prior experiences, let's say playing a brand new game over the last few weeks, I should have already recorded a bunch of footage that I can use, whether that be highlights, demonstrations, or examples of specific things I plan to talk about, or just B-roll. Now in that example, I already have most of the core ideas and probably have come to some sort of conclusion before I've even fully written anything yet, so often all I need to do is skim the footage and it'll jog my memory on specific details so it can help with the script writing process. If the video is something like a video game science or testing video, it's common for me to maybe have bits of footage that I don't quite understand, and will use these questions that arise from the footage to design the tests that I want to do to help answer those questions, in which case I'll be recording all of my testing and process along the way. Now, when it comes to gathering assets I need for videos, the phrase form follows function seems weirdly appropriate for some reason. If you're talking about something that happened before, you're going to want to already have the footage in question. Unless, of course, you're going for one of those, like, cheesy reenactment things, but I don't know, that just seems like a lot of work. If you're talking about something that you don't quite know yet and want your audience to go on the journey with you, write the outline with some sort of open-ended question that your investigation or experimentation will help fill in later. Now, if your video is about some sort of process you do, whether for demonstration or educational purposes, consider just going about that process normally and documenting it as you proceed, noting important or relevant ideas that come to mind along the way. The video that you're watching right now was one such interesting case. I mostly fleshed out what I wanted to talk about in the form of the outline, but had no material at all already and hadn't actually spent much time thinking about what I was going to be showing while I was talking. After thinking about it for a bit, what made the most sense to me was just gathering the footage in parallel with writing the more detailed parts of the script and while I was recording the voiceover. Now, this did get a little confusing at times. Again, this video is pretty meta, but because I already recorded audio from my voiceover inside of Premiere while also having a second video recording of whatever it was I was doing while I was recording the voiceover, I effectively had two copies of everything I needed to sync up, and yeah, it got a little bit weird. Each time I wanted to demonstrate some aspect of this, I realized that the process included me demonstrating the aspect of it, which I felt like I needed to record, and then that part was also, forget about it. This brings me to the final piece of this particular step in the process, a step that I didn't always do, but would highly recommend others adopt in whatever form makes sense to them, and that is sorting, grouping, and labeling. I always end up with a load of footage. Gigabytes worth of clips, 200 or 300 minute-long clips, and other long-form recordings, but the unfortunate quality of having been created opportunistically. I don't record everything in order that they're going to be in the video. It's usually impossible for me to do that, as I rarely have the entire thing both scripted and storyboarded beforehand. I record things as they happen, either while I'm streaming or when they come to mind during the editing process, or when I have a bit of voiceover in my video with nothing visual to go along with it. Now allow me to break the fourth wall here and provide a relevant example. Here I am, literally recording this while I'm writing the script. What I'm saying right now isn't actually in the script, I'm improvising it, but I think this might be interesting to show you kind of what I'm doing here. Having finished the script late last night, at least as far as I knew, when I came down in the morning to do some more work on the video, I realized that part of the process I was doing was actually something I'd forgotten to mention in the video itself. It seems like it would be disingenuous to do a video on my process and not include a major part of that process, so here I am, retroactively editing this in after I thought I was already done. I sat down in my chair, opened up Premiere Pro, and saw all the video footage that I had dropped into my project last night, and was reminded that I had no idea what any of these clips were. They're just named the time and date they were recorded, and as mentioned, I recorded everything, for all intents and purposes, in a totally random order. I got the voiceover done and needed to place all of the relevant video to correspond with the audio, which usually gets me 80-90% of the way there, at which point I can just fill in the gaps with some B-roll or quickly record some specific stuff I need near the end. At this point in the process, I have a solid idea for all the different elements of the video and what I want to be showing when I'm discussing each, but I have a big old batch of footage with no organization whatsoever, and a not-so-great mental picture of when I'm going to be talking about each of the things I know I'm going to be talking about. The order of all the little details and examples is always so muddled in my brain at this point, so to help remedy this, it's time to organize. I go through each of the clips and start moving them around into logically or thematically related groups that I can then individually label, usually using something like a nesting feature or by tossing up an actual literal label over above it that I can just quickly view from afar. This way, when I go back to listening to the voiceover from the beginning, I can quickly find the relevant video that corresponds with it and toss it where it needs to go in the timeline. Which brings us to the final aspect of the edit, the actual merging of the visual and the audio. Now the goal here is to find and cut all of the assets into the video in the best way that supports the story that I'm trying to tell. I tend to do most of the storyboarding in my head while I'm scripting and often just wing it when the time comes. When editing, I first start with the words, what's said and how it flows. I adjust and edit the music if it makes sense, and then I'll put in the visual assets to match, which is obviously kind of straightforward and intuitive for this genre or style of video. Although there are loads of aspects I want to learn and a ton of new techniques that I want to develop that I've recently been introduced to in the worlds of cinematography, photography, and even literature that I can use for my storytelling process. I'm constantly thinking about what's being said, heard, and shown in my video edit, and I'm hoping that at best it supports and solidifies the message, and at the very least doesn't distract from it. I always try to consider what I'm hoping the viewer's going to be thinking, how they should be feeling, where their attention needs to be, what they're going to be focusing on at any given point, and I try to do my best to make the content support those goals. The desire may never return, and you may remain in ignorance. The desire may never return, and you may remain in ignorance. The desire may never return, and you may remain in ignorance. In ignorance. Oh my fuck. Seize the moment. Seize the moment. Seize the moment. The desire may never return, and you may remain in ignorance. And you may remain in ignorance. And you may remain in ignorance. Now, during this stage and the prior stages of the process, as I'm gathering information, clips, reference material, or assets from all over the place, I'm always super careful to keep track of all of the sources, keeping a list of links, attributions, names of people I want to feature or shout out. It's our job as creators to give credit where credit is due, and if I'm going to do it, I want to do it once and I want to do it right. We'll come back to what we do with all of that later. Now, a theme common to much of my content creation process is templates. I try to use templates for as many aspects of the process as I can. Having a set formula for things like thumbnails, intros, outros, etc. It saves me a ton of time, they're super useful if you're lazy like me, and have the added benefit of helping to maintain a consistent visual language throughout your content. You just get more for less, it's a win-win. Every now and then, you're going to want to try a little bit of a refresh, experiment with some new designs or looks for the algorithm or for your own personal enjoyment. Just don't give yourself more work than you need. Now, after all is said and done, it's time to watch the entire video back once more before the final export. There's almost always something I missed, a clip I forgot to go back and delete, a mistake in the voiceover that I forgot to trim, or mistakes made in final parts of editing that could leave the resulting render essentially useless. Trust me when I say that you only want to have to export a video once. If you take a look at the Photoshop project where I created all the assets for my little video essay outline diagram, you'll notice that these 4 arrows were named Layer 1, Layer 2, Layer 3, and Layer 4, with the green arrow being Layer 2. Now, if you look at another Photoshop project I made for this video, this time the one I used for editing the voiceover, you can see that there were a few different layers here, one of them coincidentally also named Layer 2, which was the gray bar that I used to simulate the deletion of the audio. Now, apparently when I was exporting all of the layers for the voiceover portion, which I did after I did the outline portion, the fact that both of the layers had the same name meant one of them had to replace the other. Looks like Layer 1 was the pink arrows, looks like Layer 4 were the blue arrows, Layer 3 was the purple arrows, and that leaves us with Layer 2. Whoops.